You know the vibes. Welcome to a Christmas edition of the Hoop Genius podcast, brought to you by NBA 2K25. It's myself, Mo Mooncey, alongside me, the dynamic duo from Detroit, Mr. Scott Perry and Mr. BJ Armstrong. Merry Christmas, fellas.
Merry Christmas, Mo. I didn't. You didn't send the memo. I should have wore a Christmas sweater like you today.
No. You see,
Exactly.
Scott always comes looking
He said
sharp. He comes with the blazer. He comes with the sports jacket. You stay doing you. You stay doing. I should have gave BJ the memo.
Yeah.
BJ's coming in his gym outfit. I should have gave BJ the memo.
Hey,
But Scott, you stay looking fly.
Yeah. BJ's letting you know. See, BJ's coming in camouflage today, so he's got something going on now. That's what he letting you know. Exactly. BJ's coming in camouflage today.
We're gonna be talking about some of the Christmas games, and we might be talking about the camouflage because Embiid might be camouflaged in street clothes on the bench as usual. But we'll get to that when we get to that. I got to say something about the Christmas Day games, right? Because this is like the marquee matchups for the NBA. And with all the discussion around the NBA's TV ratings happening right now, I don't know this perspective because I'm not in America and I don't follow the NFL. But I have been getting adverts on my social media that the NFL is showing their game on Christmas. Is it multiple games? Is it one game? They're showing it on Christmas Day.
There's two games on Christmas Day on Netflix.
And Beyonce is performing.
They have Beyonce of one of the NFL games?
Yeah, halftime on one of the games.
Oh, really? That must be the one down. That's probably the one down, the second one in Houston. The first one.
Yeah, because she's from Houston.
Yes. Okay. So the Ravens are playing at the Texans. That's the 4:30 game. And the 1 o'clock game is the Kansas City Chiefs at the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, smart already. Oh, Scott, you trying to ruin Patrick Mahomes' Christmas already, huh?
Well, I hope he doesn't ruin ours. I mean, they've only got one loss this year, so.
Man, I'm sure that'll be a great game. Taylor Swift might even pop out and do the halftime show there. Who knows? But do you worry this is going to affect people in America tuning in, or I guess around the world now? I don't really have the perspective on the NFL because I don't follow it, but I don't think as long as I've been watching the NBA, they've ever had NFL on Christmas Day at the same time. It's always been the NBA's day to take over.
Well, actually, last year was the first time that the NFL.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, and the NFL impacted the ratings last year, Christmas Day games, in a negative way for the NBA. So, and those games that were played last year didn't have as much meaning as the ones they have going on this year. And with the Chiefs and Steelers, Chiefs are playing for home field advantage throughout. Steelers are still playing, trying to win the AFC North. So that's a big one. And then the Ravens are trying to win the AFC North. And the Houston Texans are trying to improve their record to see if they can maybe host the first round home playoff game, which I think they will because they're divisional champs. So.
Yeah, it's still too early for these NBA games to have that kind of impact. But I know that the first game of the day, Mr. Armstrong will be glued to his TV because Victor Wembanyama will be visiting Madison Square Garden as the Spurs are taking on Scott's former team, the New York Knicks, which I think, looking at all the games on Christmas Day, is the most attractive fixture for the average fan. You've got the Knicks, who are the big name draw, and then you've got Wemby, who is doing crazy things over the last however many games it's been now. It seems like every time he plays, he breaks some sort of record. Do you know what I really like about Victor Wembanyama breaking these records? It reminds people of how good David Robinson was, because they say like he's the first Spurs player to do X since David Robinson. And a lot of people who aren't familiar, they can then go back and watch the Admiral and realize how good he is. But we're talking about this matchup with the Knicks and the Spurs. Scott, your perspective from the Knicks, they started off the season a little rough. Mikal Bridges has, learned how to shoot jumpers again and things are trending in the right direction. But how do you think the Knicks are feeling? We're now past the 25-game mark of the season and we're heading into Christmas. How do you think it is over there?
I believe they like the way that they're trending now, mainly because over the last 10 games, their defense has improved. At least their defensive metrics and numbers have gotten a lot better. So I know that makes the coach, Tom Thibodeau, feel a lot better about where this team is because, has been the backbone and staple of any Tom Thibodeau coach team is to be very good defensively. So there's improvement in that area as a team. they're shooting the ball very well. We know this team, their starting five is a really good starting five. A lot of versatility there, especially at the wing positions in terms of being able to how they're going to not only attack you offensively, but defensively mainly. When you talk about Josh Hart and Anobi and Mikal Bridges is starting to play better. They had a big time win in Minnesota here the other day, where Karl Anthony Towns went back, played extremely well. Jalen Brunson is, playing that consistent level of basketball, playing well. It looks like they're starting to get more comfortable and figure one another out. So they're playing good basketball. The energy on Christmas Day games in New York City is really one of a kind. So I know the fan base is going to be jacked up for that. Having hosting Victor Wembanyama there on Christmas Day, I look forward to the Knicks to come in and really play one of their better games to date. They'll be jacked up for this game.
BJ, did you play a Christmas Day game in Madison Square Garden? You must have.
No.
Or were you always at home?
Maybe, but I can't recall.
But what's it like, the Christmas Day games? How's that from the player's perspective?
I always enjoyed the Christmas games and the holiday games for the simple fact that, complete honesty, I was able to keep my conditioning. I did what I had to do for the holidays, and then I got a little workout. I love. I mean, what else? What else is going on? I was going to work out anyway, and when you're on a good team, as Scott will attest, you work hard to get there, and all of a sudden you're just going to take a day off for no reason at all. Well, that's not how it works. So for me to be able to get up on Christmas, exchange gifts, call your friends, call family, call Scott on my way as I'm going to the game, and then get a little workout. I can't think of anything better because that's what Scott and I was going to do anyway, whether we were in Detroit. Hey, what time were you eating dinner? What time you doing? Hey, what time is the run? So to me, it just felt natural. Played, and it didn't bother me. It didn't even bother me to be on the road when we played on the road, and I enjoy. I was
going to ask you that. From where I sat, but from a player standpoint, I would imagine there are some advantages to being the road team because you're not dealing with as many distractions.
Family, yes.
The family's correct. Usually in town. That's the one thing that the Knicks and all these home teams on Christmas Day are going to have to navigate.
Right.
And the guys are used to it, but still, there are a lot of family coming in town for that game, a lot of responsibilities with kids and families right there. And so that could be, that could wear on you. That could break up your routine in terms of the normal rest that you get.
That's right. So, That's right. And I get it. I always look for advantages during the course of the season, scheduling advantages. It was interesting to watch the 3 or 4 days that everyone had off during the in-season tournament.
Yeah.
And then you saw when teams came back from that, there was a difference in like, oh, wow, like what's going on? Mm-hmm. So I always looked on Christmas Day to see which teams handled their business, and I always wanted to check the conditioning. Scott knows that's kind of a term in Detroit. We're going to check the conditioning because we picked up 94 feet. That was the first. And then I'm going to turn to you, Mo. The thing I'm looking for is to see who are the true professionals in this game. Because the true professionals, they understand it's the holidays. However, I didn't want to give my opponent any advantage to think that they had an advantage on me, because when you play well against a guy, I don't care when, that memory has the potential to stick in his head and to say, well, he gave me 25 on Christmas Day, or he gave me whatever it is. So I'm looking to see who's going to come out and put their professional hat on and figure this game out. Because it's easy to have an excuse, like Scott said, your family's in town, you're opening up the gifts, it's smelling good in the kitchen. Well, you throw off your routine. I think it's a 12 o'clock game in New York.
In New York, yes.
New York. Now your routine is kind of, open, for the players who have kids. And I respect that. However, at 12 o'clock, you're going to be in between them lines. And you got to figure that out. And I always wanted to take advantage of that. That was just me. Didn't matter what the situation was. So I always look for that. I always look for the professionalism. And that's always an important thing for me. It was when we played in the later games and we didn't have shoot around for obvious reasons. I still made it over to get my routine because that was just what it was. And I wasn't the only one that showed up.
Professional business.
And I wasn't the only one that showed up. So there are other players that, think the same way.
Well, Mr. Wembanyama's family is in France, and the Spurs obviously being led by Chris Paul with his veteran leadership, who's played in numerous Christmas Day games throughout his career. What's really impressed me recently, the Spurs, who are now 2 games out of the 5 seed in the West. Jeremy Sohan's been playing fantastically, especially his energy, what he brings defensively, but also crushing the offensive rebounds. I think has been a real bright spot. I think the Spurs are, in my eyes, a legitimate playoff team. And I think they're going to keep improving as the season goes along, and they're going to keep figuring things out. Because, before we talked about which teams were going to make the playoffs in the West, who's going to be in the play and who might miss out. And some people were thinking the Spurs might be a team who missed out. And I heard the post-game press conference from Chris Paul the other day where he said, although we're developing as a group, it shouldn't be we'll win next year or the year after. We should be trying to win now. Do you guys look at the Spurs as a legitimate playoff team in the West right now?
First of all, I agree with Chris Paul when he says that look, you don't know what next year is going to bring. You're trying to win now. If you're a competitor, you got good young players. I know the team is younger by and large, with the exception of Chris, but you got to be building winning habits now. And if you're Victor Wembanyama, I want to make this comment because I know we talk about Victor a lot. We have tremendous respect. We think he's going to be the face of the NBA here pretty soon if he continues on his trajectory. Well, what better way for him than on Christmas Day? What a lot of great players have done it in the history of the game. You go back to Michael Jordans and Magic Johnsons, and Larry Birds, people like that, going into the Garden and having huge games in front of the world stage. And Christmas being the time that everyone is watching around the country. This is really the opening, the unofficial opening of the NBA, if you will, because this is when people are really starting to tune in terms of they're putting a lot of
no, Scott. Everyone tune in to see the Bucks in Vegas.
Exactly. No, but I mean the Christmas Day games have always carried a lot of weight.
Yeah.
From, a coverage television standpoint. Football is starting to wind down, going into playoffs.
And it's also a way to get new fans, because you're watching with the family and people who might not be into the NBA might see something that makes them want to tune in.
Yes, the casual fan is now going to tune in because it's on television all day and this is going to be on in the house. So, but for Victor Wembanyama, is this a moment for him that he can come in and really show out and show who he's going to be and what the league's going to have to deal with and have a huge performance and go in there and upset the Knicks? I'm going to be looking for that myself.
BJ, you've been pretty good with predicting crazy performances from Mr. Wembanyama. What do you think he's going to do at Madison Square Garden on Christmas?
Well, I think this is going to be a tough.
Bear in mind, the Knicks, without Mitchell Robinson still, he's going to be guarded by Karl-Anthony Towns. Maybe a little bit of Precious, maybe a little bit of Jericho Sims.
Yeah,
so
I think this is going to be a tough game for him. Because defensively, he will not be able to roam the way that he would traditionally be able to roam because of Karl-Anthony Towns' ability to shoot the basketball. So, we'll see. I'm not sure if this current Spurs team, as currently constructed, is able to really deliver on a big game like they currently have here. at 12 o'clock in Madison Square Garden. I'm not sure. And I like their team. I like the fact that they are playing for something. I think Chris Paul is definitely correct. What Scott just alluded to, I think is correct. However, as they are currently this roster as is right now, when you have your games or you have your moments where you'll say that was a turning point in the season. I'm not sure if they are ready to make that step yet, just yet, with this team. It would be nice for them, as you can see now. You can see they are, what were they, 9th, 10th, somewhere around there in the Western Conference. They are playing for things. Victor, he put up a 30-10 block game. I mean,
I lose
amazing.
I lose count of what he does.
Yeah, that's great. However, I think they are, making strides, but I don't think they've made that stride where you're saying they have arrived. I don't think Victor is ready to take the mantle and say, this is my league. I don't think he's ready to do that just yet, just for the simple fact, the style of play in which they play right now. However, they are improved from last year. I think that's great. And they are playing for something. And I love the fact that Chris Paul, who is, at this stage, he's in year like 20, right, in his career or somewhere around
close,
there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that he has an urgency and he's given this team a sense of urgency. And clearly, when Chris Paul is on the floor, they are improved. So I think they've made a step in the right direction.
Well, as Wembanyama is, the future face of the league, two guys who are in the mix for, current superstar status. Luka Doncic and Anthony Edwards will be going head to head in the next matchup between the Mavericks and the Timberwolves. But before we do that, who have you guys got winning, the Knicks or the Spurs?
I'm going to go Knicks in this game. I'm going to go Knicks with the way they've been playing. The more experienced team, I think overall they have more balance. And I just know how tough that environment's going to be for a young team like San Antonio. But I do expect a very competitive game, but I'm going to go Knicks.
BJ?
I agree with Scott. I'm going Knicks. I just think they are a better team. And even though they're not a deep team, I think they are, playing better. I think they are, the way they are playing consistently, especially on the offensive end, and they're getting a little better on the defensive end. Okay. And so I'm going to pick the Knicks.
I'm picking the Spurs.
No
distractions. No distractions.
Okay.
No distractions.
Okay.
When we talk about, opening nights of the season and stuff, BJ always tells me about how many distractions there are with getting tickets for your family and this and that and 101 things going on. And I think the Spurs team might be locked in and the Knicks team might be a little distracted. But the Timberwolves and the Mavericks going head to head. The Timberwolves now 14-13, just above 500, which is not great considering they were in the conference finals last season. Their defense has started to improve a little bit. The offense is a little bit hit and miss. But they're matching up with the Mavericks, who have kept things rolling even with absences from Luka Doncic. Kyrie's been doing a great job stepping up, and their whole squad in general has been playing really good basketball. What are your thoughts ahead of that matchup?
Minnesota is, in this game, is still trying to get some level of consistency. I thought about 2 weeks ago they were headed in that direction, and then they suffered a really bad home loss to the Knicks where they were blown out and then came back and lost to Golden State as well. So not sure which team is going to show up for them. Again, Christmas Day, I believe these guys will be excited. Julius Randle's going home to Dallas. Historically, he has played very well when he goes home to Dallas. He's had some of his best games. I know in my experience with him in New York, he played extremely well anytime we went to Dallas. So I expect him to play well. They really need Anthony Edwards, though, to start playing like Anthony Edwards consistently. We talked about this before. His heavy reliance early on in the season is shooting a three-point shot. The last game against Golden State, I think 11 of his 20 shots were out from three. And he's so good at scoring from so many other areas on the court, mid-range, at the rim, drawing fouls. He's letting defenses off the hook. But with that said, if Dallas is in full effect. If all guys are on deck, if Luka's back, Kyrie, I know just played the last game, but assuming Luka plays, I'm going to favor the home team, the Dallas Mavericks, in this game. I believe they're a little bit deeper overall, and again, just that home energy at that crowd. I'm going to favor the Mavericks, and they've done a pretty good job when one of those guys have been out, just kind of holding down the fort. So that I think their depth has really grown. So I like the Mavericks to win this game.
BJ, what are your thoughts?
Well, Mo, I like to when I don't know who's available, I always ask you now, what is the injury
But now
report
it just says it all says game time decision. So now they're just not giving us any
yeah,
clues. We don't know.
What is going on with Luka? Like no one is answering that question. What is going on with Luka right now? Do we know?
When you've watched him this year, Luka always strikes me as a player that's kind of working himself into condition, but he looks a little bit better this time of the year than he normally does in terms of physical shape. But I believe he had an injury. I believe he had an injury in training camp, and that probably has persisted off and on throughout the season.
It's a heel contusion, is what they say.
Okay. Is that what's going on? Okay. I'm gonna pick Dallas. I'm gonna pick Dallas here. I'm gonna pick Dallas. The Minnesota Timberwolves. Not sure. I'm not sure what's going on with them. I thought, Scott, they had turned a little corner. I thought things were here and kind of figuring out how this is going to work. But something is going on with the following. They're too good of a team just to be to depend on two players to lead them in scoring.
Right.
I think they have a minimum of 8 players, right?
Mm-hmm.
That I think they have 3 starters coming off the bench, and DiVincenzo,
Nikhil Alexander-Walker,
Nikhil Alexander, and Naz Reid. I mean, those are 3 players that could easily be a starter. So I'm not sure what's going on. I don't know if it's offensively they're not playing unselfishly. As Scott like to say, his job, the coach's job is to selfish behavior.
Exactly.
Right now, we have 2 players that seems to get the majority of the shots, which is fine if that's how it works out. But with this team, they're too good. I mean, those are 8 really, really good players, in my opinion.
Yeah, it feels like they traded Cat to make more space financially to re-sign Nikhil and Naz, but it feels like they're not getting any increased opportunity compared to what they were getting last season.
Well, and I'll tell you the other guy that they want to see take the next step in terms of being aggressive offensively and giving more consistent scoring. He's capable of Jaden McDaniels in the starting lineup. And look,
it's fascinating.
We lauded him last year. Yeah, we lauded him last year, obviously for his defensive prowess. He's long and all those things, but this guy can score. He's a capable scorer, and he has not shot the ball as well as he's capable of shooting it to this point. And maybe it's time for him to step outside of his personality a little bit because he's more on the quiet side and just and be a little more aggressive night in and night out offensively. Because you need to BJ's point, you need other options than just quote unquote the big 2 every night. It's great when you have a big 2 with okay, I can put 20 in the books or 25 in the books for these 2 guys. But you're not going to win with just 50 points. You still, you got to score 110, 120 points. So you got to get points from other people. So he needs to step up. Be more consistent.
If you look at the lineup numbers for the Timberwolves, in the lineups without Jaden McDaniels, they are one of the best offensive teams in the league. But because he's a star, he plays starter minutes and he offers so much defensively. For some reason, the offense, when he's on the court, just doesn't flow. And then there's a whole bunch of issues with the Timberwolves that we could dive into. However, we got to keep it rolling. The next game on the docket is the Sixers at the Celtics for a Christmas Day matchup. I've got the Celtics to win. I don't have much to say about the Sixers. What about you guys?
Yeah, we can move on. Boston Celtics. The Sixers haven't given me any reason to say that they either turn the corner or there's no real continuity there yet. And I don't see them establishing that on Christmas Day. So Boston Celtics.
But I am looking forward to the post-game podcast from Paul George. I'm sure that will be great.
And moving right along.
Everybody in on Boston?
Boston.
Mo, who you didn't tell us who you had Minnesota, Dallas.
Dallas.
So we all in on Dallas.
I got
all in on Dallas. We all in on Boston. And then
the Timberwolves have got a lot to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just the Spurs. I'm just rooting for the underdog over there. But here's an interesting one.
Okay.
The biggest name matchup for the casual fan is LeBron and Stephen Curry as the Lakers head to the Bay Area for a matchup with the Warriors, which should be pretty interesting because the Warriors got off such a hot start this season and things have kind of fallen apart. And now they've got Schroeder trying to integrate him into their starting lineup as well. The Lakers are right now 16-12. The Warriors right behind them in the 7th seed is 15-12. So they're two evenly matched teams. And, Steph and LeBron are the two big name draws for this, which should have fans tuning in. Anthony Davis and Draymond Green is going to be a very fascinating matchup to watch because they're two of the league's elite defenders as well. But how are you guys looking at this matchup?
I agree that, two teams that have been a little bit up and down, both got off to hot starts this season. And then from that point, they have been up and down, just kind of depending upon opponents and schedule and all those kind of things. But when it's all said and done, for this matchup, again, I'm going to go with the home team. I'm going to go with the Golden State Warriors. I believe they're deeper. I believe they're more capable of sustaining a 48-minute defensive effort than the Lakers are on a more consistent basis. That's how Golden State got off to such a great start because they would this season because defensively they were defending very well. Schroeder has had a little time now to play a couple games, get a few practice sessions in. He should be integrated a little bit better. So I see Golden State winning this game.
What about you, BJ? Because, LeBron took a little break away from the team where no one knew where he was, and he's come back looking like he's 21 again. Do you think the Lakers will get it done? That's all I'm going to say about that. I don't want the LeBron fans to be mad at me.
as we are talking here, I was just looking at the records. As you guys know, I look at the records. Okay. The 76ers in this game, they're 9-17. The Spurs are 15-13. The Knicks 18-10. The Wolves 14-13. Mavericks 18-10. And then we're discussing 16-12, the Lakers versus the Warriors 15-12.
12, right.
Now, Scott, unofficially, this is kind of the start of the season, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know when we're going to make a separation of like who are the best team or who is the best team in the league or who's going to. But right now, everyone is just kind of hovering right around 500. The Nuggets, the game after 15-11, the Suns 14-13. I don't really know what to think here.
Right.
I just don't really know what to think.
But it's also interesting that, if you look at the Eastern Conference, the Cavs are at the top 25-4. They're not playing on Christmas Day. The Celtics are playing. The Knicks are playing. The Magic aren't playing. The Bucks aren't playing. And then over in the West, the Thunder aren't playing. The Grizzlies aren't playing. The Rockets aren't playing. Do you see what I mean? Like the best teams in the league, aside from the Celtics, are not playing on Christmas Day. The Celtics and the Knicks, if you want to include the Knicks.
Exactly. So clearly, the availability of the players matters. So we can't even predict or even have, the best records aren't playing on Christmas Day.
If you could pick a 5-game slate of the games you want to see on Christmas, who would you want to see? What are the matchups that you guys would want to see?
Let me just add something though. When these games are scheduled, and let's not kid ourselves, they're scheduling some of the biggest names in the league every year. And anticipation that their teams are going to be good enough and not have poor records. I mean, like if you go through the matchups, okay, Victor Wembanyama, rising superstar in the NBA, against the New York Knicks. New
Yep.
York always plays huge media market, and you figured the team was going to be good this year, and they are good. Minnesota, Anthony Edwards, emerging superstar, Olympian against Dallas Mavericks. Luka, Kyrie.
NBA finalists.
That's what's selling. Finalists, yeah. I know you don't like me saying his name, Mo, but a big name, big star in Philadelphia, Joel Embiid.
No. It's not that I don't like it, Scott. Hold on. Because if you and I, Scott, sat down to make the schedule during the summertime, right?
Right.
And we had to bet $10,000 on one star player being unavailable on Christmas Day. And to be fair, he might actually play. But
right. Mm-hmm.
The point is they're 9 and 17 because he's been unavailable, right?
I agree. Yeah, no question.
So would you not have put OKC in that game against Boston? Because they've got Shea. They were the number one seed in the West last year. That's the matchup I would have picked rather than the Sixers versus the Celtics.
Yes, if you could flex schedule that. But again, these are determined.
No, but in the summer, you could have had the foresight to know that OKC versus Boston would be a better game.
But again, the rivalry of Philadelphia and Boston, the history of those two teams, same conference.
Should I give you a quote?
And they added Paul George. Should
I give you a quote, Scott?
And you got Tyrese Maxey. What's the quote?
This is one of my favorite quotes ever from Joel Embiid himself.
Okay.
He said, "It's not a rivalry. They always kick our ass." He said that. He said that in an interview. Right, himself, the face of the Philadelphia franchise, admitted it ain't a rivalry.
Right. Well, because Boston's been beaten, but I'm just saying.
Dr. J ain't walking through those doors.
I know Dr. J and neither is Larry Bird. And I know, but Boston is the reigning champions. But you're talking about two major cities that when you talk about Philadelphia, Boston.
Okay,
so again, you're talking about television resonating for television. Los Angeles, Golden State, okay, say no more. Two biggest names of this past generation, Steph and LeBron.
And they had the Olympics in the summer.
And then you finish with the 3-time MVP, the Joker, and Kevin Durant. So that's how these matchups are. I mean, since I've been around the league, now maybe BJ, you would say different, but since I've been around the league, the Christmas Day games, they want to feature, the NBA wants to feature, quote unquote, the best and brightest of the individual stars.
No love for Giannis, no love for Ja Morant.
That's
who the fans want to see, Ja Morant, more than any of these other guys you've named. Like, well, the younger generation of fans, at least.
Again, he is a superstar, and obviously Giannis to me is one of the best 2 or 3 players in the league. So, and he's played on Christmas Day.
He has.
Giannis was on Christmas Day, I believe, last year. Last few years.
And then the year before, Tatum hit the game winner over him on Christmas Day, which was great. But you know, I just think for someone like Shea, who's going to be in the MVP conversation, and you're trying to build this star, and Canadian basketball's rising, to not feature him and the OKC with the number 1 seed in the West last year, it would be pretty easy to predict that they're going to be good again this year, seeing as they improved their roster. It would have been a good idea to maybe feature them and, like, you know, maybe a potential finals preview, OKC Celtics.
Look, aside from Chicago not being in there, they also are covering all your largest media markets too. Let's talk about the business side of it, Mo.
Oh, thank God the Bulls aren't in there. If the Bulls were in there, I don't.
New York, Philadelphia, Boston, Dallas, LA, San Francisco, Phoenix.
But the media markets.
See, that's where okay. Now OKC, and I love OKC, and I agree from a ability standpoint and quality team standpoint. Yeah, they belong on Christmas Day. There's no question about it. But when they start putting this together and they're looking at the metrics of who's tuning in and all that kind of, I don't know that OKC is a draw for the 3 of us on this podcast because we're real basketball
and our listeners.
But
do you not think about it like this, though, Scott? Do you not think about it like this, right? It's Christmas, you got the family round. These the first game, for example, say the Knicks blow out the Spurs and they're up 20, up 30, and it's midday. Someone's going to change the channel. Someone's going to say, "Oh, should we go and do this? Should we go for a walk? Should we go and do?" You know what I mean? I don't know if the TV's staying on. You're watching the 76ers and the Celtics. Say the Celtics are up by 40 at halftime. No one's tuning in for the second half, and then they won't tune in for the next game and the next game.
But here's but though, they're gonna tune in the beginning because they want to see that star player or that big name player. So do you get them tuned in? Now, if you don't have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is my pick for MVP. I said that at the beginning of the year. And from a basketball perspective, he's one of my favorite guys to watch in the league. But again, that's for people, So that's just my. I'm just kind of giving you the business.
Yeah, no, I respect it.
That goes into this, especially from the league perspective. So
I want to know from the perspective of Mr. Armstrong, if you could pick the 5 games for the Christmas Day slate this year, what are the 5 games you would have?
Well, I don't know.
Just off the top of your head, who would you want to see?
I can't go there because you're going to force me to go back in the way we used to determine the players. That ship has sailed. It's gone. It's left the dock. The top 3 teams in the Western Conference, the OKC Thunder, the Memphis Grizzlies, and the Houston Rockets, aren't even on the slate.
There we go.
We have 2 teams that aren't even in the top 10 playing. So clearly, we all now have an issue, and the people who are scheduling the games don't know. Okay. So if the NBA, who determines the schedule, and Scott, how many boards do we have? We have a committee. We have a committee for everything in the NBA. They don't know. So now you want me to know, and it's impossible for me to know because of the inconsistency of how the game is played. Guys just come up and do things that I would never imagine doing. Okay. And trust me when I say this gentleman right here, Scott Perry, no one loved to shoot from deep more than Scott. But even Scott knew what is a good shot and a bad shot. I'm not letting anybody off the hook. So you're forcing me now to try to determine something that I don't know because guys now are doing things, Scott, I never imagined. And everyone tells me that 3 is more than 2. So I'm going to sit here and I'm going to watch it. But what I do know is we can't even predict now. The 2 top teams in both conferences, the Cleveland Cavaliers in the East and the OKC Thunder in the West, are not even playing. And they're the best 2 teams. And you're telling me.
That could be the finals.
And you're telling
me.
Could
be. Yeah, could be.
But then you want me to predict when I don't even know. If I were just watching the game and I didn't know anything about basketball, I wouldn't know what a good shot was from a bad shot based on how the game is played today. But what I will say, I can look at the stats, look at the analytics, and say the best team in the Eastern Conference is the Cleveland Cavaliers and the best team in the Western Conference. So my natural question would be, why aren't those teams featured? I want to reward the type of behavior I want to see. I want to see good team basketball. I want to see the game played at its elite level. I want to respect guys who are doing all the things that's going to contribute to what made this game great. And now, Scott, they're not. Mo, they're not. So I'm going to sit on the sideline on this one because there's a lot of things I could say about this. But I'm gonna be in the holidays. I'm gonna be in the holiday cheer, and I'm not gonna allow.
He just got the eggnog flowing. He said,
"I'm not gonna allow," because Scott, the game is where it's at now, and I'm not gonna be that guy where I keep looking, going, we don't even have the top teams in the league playing.
Right.
Scott, you just said it. You said OKC made roster upgrades. I think we would all agree in the offseason.
Yes.
No question they did.
How could they not be? So what do you want me to say?
And they finished what, first or second in the West last year.
So what do you want me to say?
This goes to the deeper problem that we've spoken about. This is the deeper problem we've spoken about, and I've mentioned on the show before, that the newer generation of fans support the players. And so what Scott's saying is completely right in that they're putting the biggest name players, or who they think is the biggest name players, on the thing. Right. But fans supporting players is a dangerous road to go down, because when LeBron and Steph and KD retire in a couple of years from now, who are they going to put then? Because then you will try and put Shea and Donovan Mitchell, but you've not built them up in front of the casual fan well enough for the casual fans to care about Shea and Donovan Mitchell.
But we keep saying we're putting the starts, which, okay, that's one way to look at it. However, we also keep saying, and we have the numbers to support it, the ratings are down.
No question they're down.
Okay, if we keep doing the same thing and expect different results, so I'm going to sit on the sideline and let you two gentlemen figure this one out, and I'm just going to listen because Mo, the math is not mathy to me. So we want to have numbers and we want to have numbers and analytics for one thing, but then when we have the numbers and the analytics in front of us, we just ignore it. So something is not adding up to me. And the ratings are down. We just said the NFL has come in. Okay.
And that's a problem.
That's a problem. We can sit here and ignore it. We can sit here and ignore it. They putting the Steelers, they putting the Ravens, they putting the Chiefs. Okay. So now they math is adding up. Now we can sit here and
forget the teams beef. Forget the teams.
No,
they've got Beyonce. They've got Beyonce. You don't understand. You don't understand this, right?
No, Mo, I understand
that are tuning in just to watch Beyonce. They don't care about no damn NFL, but they will watch just to see Beyonce.
Hey, well, all I know, Mo, is something.
The NBA's gonna have the guy NBA's gonna have the guy who gets his dog to dunk in a little hoop.
I'm gonna sit on the sideline because I'm trying to exhibit a level of discipline. Because Mo, Scott, I got facts here. Hey, Scott, I got facts. No, I'm not coming with opinions on this. Now, if they can't figure it out, then okay. Why you expect me to figure it out? But here it is. It's right in front of us.
No, and obviously this what BJ brings up obviously is worthy of an entire show.
Yes, it is.
In terms of just
a whole, not even just a show, a whole series.
So maybe a week, a series exactly where the game is at and why people are tuning out, and so and it's the quality of the game. And he touched on a good and bad shot. You don't even hear that anymore. And that's those who came up in this game understand exactly what that is, and that's always contributed to winning basketball, being efficient, effective on the offensive end and not wasting possessions. It's almost like, okay, let's just throw a shot up at the basket just to get an attempt up. That doesn't.
As long as you're behind the line. As long as you're behind the line, then you can.
Yeah. But I would argue, as you analyze the number of 3-point shots being taken by teams, if you objectively analyze them, how many of those shots are good versus poor shots? And I would comfortably say that 35 to maybe 40% of those shots are poor shots a lot of the times. But hey, again, I digress. We can cover that.
Yeah, we'll get into that in the new year. We'll get into that in the new year. We're in the Christmas spirit. So who are you guys picking? Lakers or Warriors? Let's get back to it.
I have the Warriors.
I'm gonna pick the Lakers. Okay. Because either I'll be right or the Lakers will lose and I'll have an even better Christmas. BJ, what about you?
Man, it's a tough one. It's a tough one.
Let's say everyone's available. Let's say if everyone's available. How about that? That makes it easier for you.
If everyone's available, I'm gonna go with the Lakers.
Okay. And then the final matchup.
I'm on the island myself on that one. Okay.
You on the Warriors island yourself. The final matchup of the night is the Nuggets at the Suns. The Nuggets, who seem to make life very difficult for them. They squeaked out an overtime win against the Pelicans.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's not great. But what I do want to say is Russell Westbrook. I think we might be the only podcast in the world who always believed in Russell Westbrook and didn't talk bad on his name like every other media outlet in the world. So I'm quite enjoying this season that Russell Westbrook's having with the Denver Nuggets. He's playing fantastic basketball. The Suns just one game above 500. These are two kind of middle of the pack teams in the West. The Suns, right, I say middle of the pack. The Suns are in the 11th seed right now. The Nuggets are in the 5th seed, but it is what it is. Who have you guys got for this one?
Interesting, because these two teams are playing on Monday tonight. Two nights before, but in Denver, and then they're going to Phoenix for the Wednesday game. So the team that doesn't win tonight, I believe is going to win on Wednesday. So I'm gonna pick,
that makes sense.
I'm picking. I believe Denver will come home, probably win tonight and beat Phoenix. So I'm going to go to Suns at home. I know that means I've taken all the home teams here on Christmas. So I'm gonna stick with.
I'm picking Denver because the Suns have got no one that can guard Jokic, and Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant on two different teams on Christmas Day. Russ ain't never back down in his life. So I'm picking the Nuggets.
Everybody healthy for Phoenix. Booker.
Scott, who knows? Scott, who knows? Yeah. Because there's a game tonight, and then after the game tonight, that might change. Like Booker is not playing tonight. So who knows if he'll be there for the Christmas Day, but I assume he will. But yeah, that's the Christmas Day matchups. Let me ask you guys one final question before we go. If you had a Christmas wish for the NBA, what would be your wish for the NBA? Because my wish would be the referee's got to chill out. You see, they give a technical foul to the guy with the mop the other day for mopping the floor. The refs are getting a little out of hand right here. We spoke about this on a previous episode. But what would be your Christmas wish for the NBA? BJ, you got to narrow it down to one because I know you got about
no, Scott. I'm going to exhibit discipline here. I'm gonna let Scott have it.
I'm just hoping the refs don't impact the outcome of any of those Christmas games. That's me.
Again, I'm gonna save what I was getting ready to say for when we do our breakdown.
We're gonna do like a 4-hour episode. Exactly, in the new year, we're gonna do like a 4-hour episode.
Yeah. So I'll say what I was getting ready to say. So I'm gonna give a true Christmas wish for the NBA. I'm just hoping for health for all of the players this year.
Yes, sir.
No serious injury. There will always be minor bumps and bruises that come with play. However, but no major injuries, no ACLs or Achilles and things of that nature that will, end a player or in.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, so fingers crossed for that. Good health for all the players.
BJ, anything from you?
I'm just going with Scott. Scott is leading the way.
Yep.
And I'm going to
politician follow Armstrong.
Valuable lesson.
Well, I will tell you what. We are here wishing everyone listening to this podcast a happy holidays and a happy holidays to the Perry family and the Armstrong family. I hope you guys have a great time. We'll be back on like the 27th or something. Because I'm gonna enjoy the festive spirit.
Oh, I bet you are. I bet you are.
No, we're keeping it wholesome. Christmas is a wholesome time of the year. Just catch up with friends, catch up with family, catch up with some other friends, maybe.
Well, I think I'm gonna have to send a drone over there to follow you.
Hey, Scott. Over there. Scott, I don't know that exactly. Battery charge. You know that
exactly.
Hey, I'm nationwide. You know what I mean? Yeah, we're gonna keep it low key. We're gonna keep it low key. But wishing everyone listening to this happy holidays from the Hoop.
Keep it low key and Mo don't go together. I can tell you that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I will speak to you fellas on Christmas Day. Don't call me until then. How about that?
Exactly.
I'll be back with the family on Christmas Day. Until then, I'm on do not disturb mode.
Hey Mo, I'm gonna give you an old school line. And I use this. People that work with me know this. Hey Mo, if you don't see me, don't look for me.
Hey, that's a bar. That's a bar.
Hey Mo, you don't see me, don't look for me now.
Hey,
You
now that's a
interpret that
fact.
one. Exactly.
Now that's a fact. Now that's a fact. All right, now I'm gonna use that right now. All right, I got to get this show on the road before people start looking for me. So I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Happy holidays to you both. Happy holidays to everyone listening.
All right.
Enjoy the Christmas Day games. And until next time, get buckets.